Ranger Emily Porter always felt a stirring sense of reverence each time she gazed upon Crater Lake. Formed by the collapse of Mount Mazama millennia ago, the caldera's placid waters glowed a deep sapphire blue under the high-altitude sunshine. The volcanic rim encircled the lake like a fortress wall, creating a place seemingly apart from the rest of the world. The National Park Service often boasted it was one of Earth's clearest lakes, with depths that plunged almost 2,000 feet into darkness. As a ranger, she'd roamed countless trails along the rim, guided visitors to hidden scenic overlooks, and studied the ecosystem thriving in its pristine waters. But on one brisk summer morning, an unsettling call jolted the park's routine calm. 2 campers reported missing. The initial details were straightforward. A man and woman from out of state, mid-20s, had ventured to Crater Lake for a weekend of backcountry camping. They were last seen near the Cleetwood Cove trailhead. When they failed to return to the visitor center or answer their phones, their families raised the alarm. At first, Emily expected a typical rescue scenario. Hikers wandering off trail, perhaps spraining an ankle or losing their direction in the dense forest. She gathered a small search team herself, a volunteer named Chris and Ranger Adams, then headed to the location where the missing pair had been permitted to camp. But what they found there sent a chill through her blood. The campsite was intact. The couple's tent stood upright, undisturbed. Their gear, sleeping bags, backpacks, half-eaten food remained in place. There were no signs of struggle or intrusion by wildlife. Everything was normal, except for the absence of the campers. Even more perplexing were the footprints leading away from the site, heading directly toward Crater Lake's shoreline. The group followed the footprints meticulously across a short stretch of forest and rocky rim, eventually down a slope to the water's edge. The prints' 2 sets were clear in the soft volcanic soil, yet they simply ended at the lakeshore. The ground remained damp with no returning footprints, no sign that the hikers had turned around or gone anywhere else. It was as though they walked straight into the lake and never came out. Could they have tried swimming? Chris asked, puzzled. It was possible, though unusual. The lake's water is famously cold year-round, often in the 50s. Hardly suitable for an extended swim, Ranger Adams knelt at the water's edge, swirling the crystal-clear water with a gloved hand. No clothing or items floated near, no scuffs in the mud indicating a boat. He frowned. It's like they vanished. The search team felt uneasy. They launched an official search, scouring the nearby forest, sending out a boat on the lake. But no trace of the missing man or woman emerged. By dusk, they returned to the ranger station with an uncomfortable conclusion. The campers had disappeared without explanation. For the next few days, a sense of tension gripped the park. Emily took the lead on the investigation, hoping new clues would emerge. Yet each passing hour only deepened the mystery, as if the lake had swallowed the pair whole. Word of the vanishings spread among staff, though it was kept low profile from visitors. Emily spent hours poring over the missing couple's backgrounds. They seemed ordinary outdoor enthusiasts, no signs of foul play or personal trouble. She studied Crater Lake's topography. A few accidents had occurred in the past. Someone might slip on steep rocks near the rim, but usually you'd find some sign, disturbed scree, clothing, or a witness. This was different. Their footprints walked to the shore and ended. Even if they drowned, the bodies or some gear might eventually surface. The water was calm, visibility often more than 100 feet. Yet they found nothing. Late one afternoon, Emily visited a local geologist, Dr. Howell, who specialized in volcanic lakes. Emily asked if any phenomenon in the water could cause such a disappearance. Howell shrugged. Crater Lake has a stable water column, no large undercurrents that pull swimmers under. Also, it's not known for underwater caves near the shore. The biggest hazard is cold temperature, but if they drowned, eventually remains might appear. The lack of answers gnawed at Emily. She recalled an older ranger's story about superstitions surrounding the lake, that some Native American tribes considered it sacred, forbidding people to look upon it. Legends said spirits dwelled in its depths. She'd always admired that cultural aura, but never suspected it might hint at something more sinister. Driven by a hunch, Emily decided to spend a night at the missing camper's site, hoping to glean fresh insights. Perhaps the couple's final hours might be revealed by subtle environmental cues or a random clue overlooked. She set up her own small tent near the same spot, around 100 yards from the water. The air was crisp and pine-scented, with the sun dipping behind the caldera rim. She read the couple's permit logs, noticing their plan had been simple: stargazing, short day hikes. She tried to imagine how they ended up walking to the lake's edge in the dead of night. Was it a midnight swim? Something else? Darkness soon enveloped the forest. The silhouette of Wizard Island floated in the middle of the lake like a sleeping beast. The hush was profound, broken only by a soft breeze rustling pine needles. Clouds drifted across a three-quarter moon, casting fleeting shadows. Around 11 p.m., a faint splash echoed across the water. Emily tensed, stepping outside with a flashlight. She scanned the shoreline. Another splash, gentle yet distinct, like someone or something moving in the water. She parted branches to see better. The moonlight revealed ripples gliding across the surface. Then it went still. Her heart thudded. She called out quietly, "Hello? Anyone there?" The only reply was the soft lap of waves. She hesitated, shining her light across the water. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure standing knee-deep near the shore, but it dissolved into the reflection of moonbeams. She retreated, unsettled. The rest of the night passed fitfully, every small sound prickling her nerves. By dawn, no new evidence emerged, except an unshakable feeling something lurked in the lake's silence. A few days later, 2 more campers reported hearing odd noises near the shore in the same region. They claimed faint voices at night, garbled as if carried across the water. Emily interviewed them. They described an eerie sensation, like being watched from the waves. "I was sure I saw a silhouette on the lake," one said. "But that's impossible, right? No one can stand on that water." Emily's spine tingled. The memory of her own fleeting sighting came rushing back. She warned them to stay away from the lake at night. Deep inside, she recognized the parallels. First missing footprints, then watery apparitions. Something was building. Local rumor swirled. Some staff joked about sea monsters or lake ghosts. Emily, no stranger to rational skepticism, found herself leaning into the supernatural explanation. The park's official stance was still a missing persons case, but she suspected a phenomenon that defied typical logic. She resolved to stake out the lake at night again, this time with a camera. Maybe she could record whatever was happening. If the missing campers were somehow involved, she might glean a clue to their fate. Another week passed. Emily set up a vantage point on a low rise overlooking the lake well after midnight. She kept her truck nearby for safety. A full moon bathed Crater Lake in pale silver, revealing the glassy surface. The cold night air stung her cheeks, but adrenaline kept her alert. Her camera was ready on a tripod. Around 2 a.m., the first hint of motion, faint ripples near the middle of the lake. She zoomed in with binoculars. The ripples vanished. Minutes later, gentle splashing. She directed her camera, heart thudding. Then, to her shock, 2 upright figures emerged from the water's edge. They stood as if on top of the lake, though the surface didn't break around their feet. The moonlight revealed them half in silhouette, features blurred. Even at a distance, Emily realized these figures matched the heights and builds of the missing campers. She gasped. "That's them," she thought. But was it real? The figures' faces were indistinct, as if smudged or masked by watery distortion. Yet their bodies, clad in soggy clothing, slowly turned, raising hands in a beckoning gesture. A hush fell over the lake. Emily's grip on her camera trembled. She snapped photos. The lens captured only faint shadows on the water. She strained to see detail. They moved closer to shore, or perhaps just drifted on the surface. Emily's instincts screamed to run, but her curiosity warred with fear. She took a step forward, pressing the camera shutter repeatedly. Then she heard it, a whisper on the wind. Not words, but a soft moan. The figures raised their arms higher, beckoning more insistently, as if urging her to join them out on the water. A wave of cold dread washed over her. She remembered the footprints that ended at the lake's edge. "This is how they vanish," a voice in her mind whispered. She scrambled back, heart pounding, almost dropping the camera. The figures remained for a few seconds, then vanished in a ripple. The water stilled. No sign they'd been there at all. Shaken, Emily bolted to her truck, locked the doors, mind reeling. The phantom figures had matched the missing couple's description. But how? She spent the rest of the night in the driver's seat, awake, headlights aimed at the lake. Dawn found no trace of footprints, Her camera images showed only faint smudges. Another improbable event, another piece of the puzzle. The next morning, she shared the account with the park's lead investigator. He was skeptical but recognized her earnestness. He glanced over the blurred photos, unimpressed. Could be illusions of light on waves, he said gently. She insisted otherwise, describing the perfect silhouettes, the beckoning. He frowned, rubbed his temples, and eventually recommended she take some personal time. Unwilling to dismiss the phenomenon, she turned to local historical archives. Maybe old legends about Crater Lake included stories of ghostly apparitions. She combed through diaries of early explorers. Some references emerged. Native stories about underwater spirits dragging unwary visitors into the depths. A frontier traveler's journal from the 19th century mentioned hearing cries across the lake at night, seeing shapes floating on the surface. A pattern formed, rare but recurrent tales of people lured into the water by mysterious figures, never to return. Could the missing campers be those new lures? The notion chilled her. Perhaps once someone vanished into those depths, they became part of the lake's haunting presence, tempting others to join them. As October slid toward November, the park quieted. Fewer tourists roamed. Fog often clung to the lake in early morning. Emily patrolled near the water's edge, mindful of any new sightings. Then tragedy struck again. A lone camper, ignoring warnings, pitched his tent near Cleetwood Cove. By daybreak he was missing. His campsite identical to the earlier couple's intact gear, footprints leading to the shore. No sign of return. The pattern repeated. Panic rippled through the ranger staff. Something was claiming victims at Crater Lake. Official bulletins discouraged lakeside camping, but that alone wouldn't suffice if an unknown force lured visitors at night. Emily felt a dark inevitability that the lake's enigma was growing stronger. She recalled the beckoning figures, the eyes that seemed absent but felt deeply aware. Determined to intervene, Emily staged a final overnight watch near the same cove the new camper had vanished. She built a modest hide among boulders, equipped with thermal imaging, high-lumen spotlights, a secure vantage point. She alerted only 2 colleagues, Ranger Flores and Ranger Yates, requesting they stay within radio range, prepared to assist. They joked it was a ghost hunt, but beneath their humor lay real fear. Night descended, the sky moonless. Stars shimmered faintly. Emily waited, scanning with night vision goggles. Hours passed quietly, the lake a black mirror reflecting distant starlight. Then, near 2 a.m., the water's surface stirred. She tensed, toggling her radio to alert Yates. At first the ripples were gentle, then she discerned shapes 2 or 3. Rising out of the lake, their forms shimmering in the starlight. She recognized the missing solo camper's shape among them, plus the original couple. All stood or drifted on the water's surface, shoulders and heads visible, faces blurred. They turned toward the shore. She stifled a gasp, flicking on her thermal scope. Strangely, they registered no heat signature, just a cold silhouette. One figure raised an arm. The others followed. Their combined gesture was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. She felt a pull to step forward, to approach the water. Her mind reeled. Don't do it. She forced logic to overcome the enthralling sight. Radio in hand, she whispered, "They're here. I see them. Approach with caution." A faint click from Yates signaled acknowledgement. Moments later, footfalls behind her announced Yates and Flores' approach. They crouched beside her, eyes wide at the ghostly spectacle. Yates muttered, "Holy, they're actually on the lake." Flores swallowed, hand on his sidearm. "This is insane." The figures advanced a few yards closer, now only tens of feet from the shore. Emily mustered courage. "Halt!" she called. "Who are you? Do you need help?" Her voice echoed. The figures paused. Then one by one they raised their arms higher. A soft susurrus drifted across the water, like 100 murmuring voices. The group of watery apparitions now numbered more than just the 3 known missing. Additional hazy shapes floated behind them, countless souls faint and shifting. A wave of primal terror coursed through the ranges. All the lost souls claimed by the lake, Emily thought. The frontmost shapes beckoned again, silently urging the watchers to step in. The black water lapped at the shore. Something about the invitation felt both sorrowful and menacing. Emily forced herself to resist the hypnotic pull. "We can't let them claim more lives," she murmured. She signaled Yates and Flores to remain grounded. But Yates, transfixed, took an involuntary step forward. Emily grabbed his arm, snapping him back to reality. He panted, "Feels like they're calling me." Flores flicked on a high-powered flashlight, sweeping the beam across the apparitions. They wavered, flickering as if disturbed. A low moan rippled across the water. Some silhouettes receded slightly. The beam seemed to disrupt them. Encouraged, she clicked on her own spotlight, shining it toward the center of the group. The entire mass trembled. A few disappeared in a swirl of mist, but the larger cluster pressed on, unaffected. The watery surface around them began to churn, small waves slapping the shore. A hollow resonance like a distant heartbeat pounded in the ranger's ears. Anxiety spiked. "Back up," Emily ordered. They retreated several yards up the slope. The apparitions advanced onto land, now something Emily never expected. Their feet moved across gravel, but no footprints remained. More ghostly shapes emerged from the lake. The rangers were outnumbered, overshadowed by a horde of silent, blurred-faced entities. Yates fumbled with his weapon, though rationally, bullets would do nothing. Flores tried shining the beam again, but the shapes parted, pressing from the sides. Emily felt an otherworldly pressure, as if the cold hands of the drowned were reaching for her mind. "We have to run," she realized. The rangers sprinted, adrenaline surging. The apparitions glided behind them, silent except for a faint splashing. The forest undergrowth snapped underfoot. Over her radio, Emily yelled for any rangers in the vicinity. Only static. The trio scrambled across the slope, hearts hammering. They reached the main trail, glimpsed their trucks parked 100 yards away. The apparitions gave chase, gliding eerily. No footsteps, no rustle of leaves. Emily felt them closer with each breath, a clawing chill at her back. At last, they tumbled into their vehicles, ignited engines, headlights cutting through the darkness. Illuminated in the beams, the apparitions lingered at the trail's edge. Some raised arms as if in longing or anger or sorrow. Then, one by one, they receded, drifting back toward the lake. The rangers peeled away, hearts pounding, not slowing, until they reached the safety of the ranger station. They collapsed inside, rattled beyond measure. Another brush with the supernatural force that commanded the missing souls. The next day, management demanded an explanation for the frantic nighttime radio calls. Emily provided a partial account, downplaying details. Internally, she resolved that something truly malevolent, or at least beyond normal, existed in Crater Lake's depths. A pattern of vanishings, spectral sightings, the water's allure. She suspected a final, drastic step might be needed to protect future visitors. Haunted by faces of the lost, Emily developed a bold plan. Attempt a direct exorcism or cleansing ritual near the lake, hoping to release the trapped souls. She reached out to a local tribal elder who sometimes collaborated with the park on cultural matters. Though initially skeptical, the elder recognized similarities to ancient stories of drowned spirits who lure the living into the depths. He agreed to assist in a respectful ceremony near the water, acknowledging that any outcome might be uncertain. The park's leadership was uneasy about spiritual interventions, but after multiple staff accounts they grudgingly allowed it. The alternative further disappearances was worse. The elder, named Rainsong, prepared a quiet, minimal ceremony involving offerings, prayers, and a chant to guide lost souls. Emily was to accompany him, plus a small circle of rangers for safety. A cold night found them at the same cove, moon overhead. The elder assembled a small altar of cedar branches and stones, muttering words in his tribe's language. The rangers formed a perimeter with flashlights off, standing guard in the gloom. The lake stretched out calmly, Rainsong lit sage, smoke curling into the starry sky. He chanted softly, calling upon ancestral spirits to help release or appease the tormented. Time passed quietly. Emily watched intently, bracing for the apparition's arrival. At first, nothing stirred. Then, as Rainsong's chant rose, faint ripples marred the lake's surface. A hush fell, the water parted, and once again, silhouettes emerged. The lost campers, the missing individuals, and countless others drifting behind them. Their blurred faces gazed upon the ceremony. Rainsong did not falter. He sprinkled cedar ashes into the water, speaking in measured tones. The apparitions wavered. Emily felt the air thicken with tension. She prayed this would end peacefully. The spirits advanced to shore, forming a semicircle around the elder's altar. The temperature dropped, frost creeping across rocks. Rainsong extended a hand, chanting. The leading apparitions froze. Then a moan, soft, pained, echoing from many throats, rose. Some receded as if pushed back. Others, though, seemed drawn toward him, entranced by the prayer. Emily felt an invisible current swirling around them. The cove's water churned. A single figure stepped forward, a woman matching the earliest missing camper's description. Her blank face slowly came into focus, revealing heartbreak in her eyes. Rainsong's chant continued. She lifted a trembling hand as if to reach across some barrier. In a flash, the entire group of spirits shuddered. A brilliant, cold blue light flared among them, reminiscent of a deep lake glow. Some parted, drifting backward. Others let out anguished wails. The woman who stepped forward looked as though she yearned to speak, but no voice came. Then, abruptly, she and all the apparitions dissolved, swirling into luminescent haze that spiraled above the water like ghosts, unbound from a final tether. The haze dissipated into the night sky. Silence fell. When dawn arrived, the cove lay peaceful. No footprints, no orbs. The rangers, exhausted, found Rainsong drained but content. He nodded, indicating something had shifted. Emily felt it too. A weight lifted from the air. The vanishings might be at an end. They parted ways, each unsure how to explain the night's events in a rational report. In the weeks following, no more vanishings. Visitors no longer reported ghostly figures or watery silhouettes. The sense of dread that plagued the lake's edge faded. However, the bodies of the missing were never recovered. Officially, they remained lost, though rumor among staff said their souls had found peace or ascended. Emily tried to move forward. She missed the missing people's families, who still clamored for closure. She provided them with updates, though it felt inadequate. Yet, in her heart, she hoped the final ceremony gave those poor souls release from the lake's grip. Winter arrived, blanketing Crater Lake's rim with snow, sealing off many areas until spring. A hush settled on the park. Emily, gazing out from a scenic overlook on a rare clear day, saw the lake's surface calm and reflective. She thought she glimpsed shapes flicker beneath the water, but it was only her mind or shifting sunlight. She recalled the final moment of those apparitions dissolving in Rainsong's ceremony, choosing to believe the haunting was over. Time would pass, the lake's beauty enduring. Some visitors occasionally might sense an eerie hush or feel eyes on them near the shoreline, but no new vanishings occurred. The legend of the disappearing campers quietly joined the annals of Crater Lake lore, whispered among rangers over late-night coffee or around park campfires. Most in the outside world never heard the tale, and yet, on certain moonlit nights, if one were to stand at that solitary cove, they might hear the faintest splash from somewhere far across the mirror-like water, or see the faint silhouette of a figure beckoning. A reminder that the boundary between the living world and the watery unknown can be precariously thin. For in Crater Lake's depths, some secrets remain beyond mortal reach, stirring gently in the dark, waiting for another soul to answer the silent call.